Saluting our military men and women.
We try to find the gaps for veterans and fill them so that they can have the quality of life that they deserve.
Supports in place for service members and their families.
We do a lot of stuff specifically for the airmen to make sure that they're taken care of.
Plus a program designed to help vets succeed in college. This is Arizona Week. Hello, and thank you for joining us. We begin with a nod to news this week that Republican Congresswoman Martha McSally plans to run for Arizona's U.S. Senate seat next year. That's now Senator Jeff Flake's seat. We'll have comprehensive analysis next week of what that means for Arizona's politics, the U.S. Senate race, and Southern Arizona's Congressional District 2. This week, a national holiday to honor our servicemen and women. Veterans Day is a tradition that began back in 1938 as a day to recognize those who served in the U.S. military. In Arizona, it's estimated there are about 600,000 veterans. Every year, the effort to support those men and women grows. The Arizona Department of Veterans Services features 3 divisions throughout the state, to include veteran state homes in Tucson and Phoenix. The department also manages cemeteries. In addition to that, there are 17 offices located throughout the state. Retired Colonel Wanda Wright is the director of the Arizona Department of Veterans Services. She served 26 years in the U.S. Air Force.
We are working the Be Connected program, which is offering resources for veterans through a phone line, which I think is a really great opportunity for veterans who need a little assistance to have support. We are also working a program called Vet Toolkit, which supports veterans who are looking for employment to be able to provide to them essential tools they need to start a job. And those are the kinds of things that our department works on.
Would you say that Arizona is doing a more than adequate job of providing services to veterans here in our state?
I believe we are. We have a very tight network that works together in collaboration. We have state, federal government working together with the community, and having all of those entities working together side by side really creates a network of resources so that veterans don't fall through. Now, you can't save everybody, which we would love to do, but we try to get as many as we can.
What have been some of the challenges associated with your work? I mean, this is a big state. There are 600,000 plus veterans, and as you said, 17 offices. Are there areas that you would like to spend more time in?
We, as a director, I try to spend time across the state, and it's great that we have these 17 offices, permanent offices, and we also have 11 itinerant offices, which means those veteran benefit counselors will travel to some locations that are more rural to support the benefits there. But that's really where we do struggle. The resources in some of the rural areas are not as strong as, say, Maricopa County or Pima County. And so we try to do a lot of work to support those areas.
I imagine there have been some successes, or many successes in your work. Are there any that you're particularly proud of that you'd like to share?
We've been working on the Arizona Management System, which is a system that the state's been using to kind of create efficiencies. And by creating efficiencies, we've been able to help more veterans with their claims for disability or pension. We started off by bringing in about $26 million a month for a number of veterans, and now we're up to $40 million a month by our ability to create more opportunities for veterans to file claims on behalf of their illness or injury. And that, I think, has been a wonderful thing. It brings money into the state, it helps the veterans live a quality of life, and it supports our ability to make sure that the veterans are taken care of well.
The Arizona Department of Veterans Services has really begun an effort, or strengthened its effort, to reach out to the women who have served.
I feel very obliged as a woman veteran to make sure that women veterans are acknowledged and that they understand the services and benefits that they deserve and that they are honored with that. And there are many women veterans, I believe, who don't believe that their service counted. And I want to make sure that they do understand that. And so we have women expos each year that allows women to come and learn about services and benefits that they have. We have bashes for them to network with one another so that they have a support system and some mentoring. And I think this is really important work that we're doing with our women veterans.
Retired Colonel Wright says there are more than 53,000 female veterans in Arizona. Arizona is home to 20 military installations. That's according to the Arizona Commerce Authority. Davis-Monthan Air Force Base is among the oldest and the largest in the country. Dedicated back in 1927, the base continues to serve as one of the military's top aviation operations. Today, more than 6,000 airmen serve at DM, supported by 1,700 civilian positions. DM-50 is a nonprofit service organization that supports the base and the people assigned to it. Bryan Foulk, president of the DM-50, with more now.
The DM-50 was started back in '86. There was a BRAC coming, which is base realignment and closure. It's the C part that is the bad part. And DM was kind of on that list that they might get closed. They were in the midst of changing missions. So people like Jim Click, Buck O'Reilly, and Dorothy Finley, and Dorothy was really the matriarch of the organization for a couple of decades, said we have to keep the base open. It's such a big economic driver. So they started the DM-50, there's 50 members, to businessmen and women to basically talk to Congress, talk to the Pentagon, tell them why the base should stay open, get support locally, and keep the base open. And they've obviously did a good job because the base is still here and it's bigger than it used to be. So
you said economic driver here in southern Arizona. Can you sort of paint that picture for us?
We're at your studios. U of A's =1, Raytheon's =2, DM's =3. So DM has about a 1.5 billion with a B impact to the local economy. When you tag that with the Air Guard at Tucson International Airport, they're another 280 million, and they kind of need each other because some of the planes at the Airport Authority need to come over to DM to do some arming and do some other work. So in essence, yeah, it's a huge economic driver in Tucson. Lots of jobs, lots of business. It's just amazing.
Tell me a bit about what DM-50 really does. I mean, even now that DM is such a big part of our community, but how are you continuing to keep its mission relevant to this county?
Well, as I said, DM started as keep the base open. We need the jobs. We need the economic driver. Tucson has some economic issues. As you know, we get named as one of the worst 50 towns in America for, economics and stuff. If you lose the base, you're going to really, go down. So that's how it started. Now DM-50 does 70% of our work is actually supporting the airmen. Support the young men and women that are out there volunteering their service to help protect our freedom and protect the country. We do a lot of stuff out there. We give away free car seats as people need it. We have a picnic. We have a car show for the airmen on base. We do a tailgate at the U of A. 2,500 airmen and their families go to a tailgate and attend a game at the U of A. A lot of them never seen Division I football. We do Thanksgiving dinner. We take some of the airmen to our houses for Thanksgiving. So the ones that have been away, some of these are 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids, never been away from home. First Thanksgiving away, we bring them to our houses and give them kind of a home away from home type thing. There's just, we have golf tournaments for the airmen where they get to golf at places they're never going to get to golf. We raise some money for emergencies, families that are in need. We do a lot of stuff specifically for the airmen to make sure that they're taken care of. And when they're at this base, because they'll have several bases they'll probably go through, that they look back fondly and say, wow, the Tucson community really supported us, and Tucson was a great town. So that's part of our overall mission. Plus, we still do 30% is advocacy, talking to the Pentagon, talking to Congress, talking to the Senate, making sure the governor, making sure that city, state, everybody, that they understand what DM brings to the community and what it means.
Do you suppose that Washington has a good understanding of what takes place down here?
The Pentagon, you have to educate them. You would think not. They're in the Air Force. Sure. If they weren't an A-10 pilot or flew C-130s or did rescue, they might have never been stationed at DM. They have no idea how good they have it out here. Weather, you live here. Weather, you can fly 365 days a year, huge runway, great support in Tucson for the airmen, the Barry Goldwater and all that ranges, the airspace. I mean, it's an ideal flying place to be. And if they've never been to Tucson, when they're looking at bases to do stuff with, they have no idea. So you have to go back and educate, and every 2 years, those people change positions at the Pentagon. So you have to constantly make sure that the people that haven't been here and don't know what Tucson offers, you let them know what's available.
And how vital DM is to this area, but also to the military.
To the military. We plug the military. While every town in America plugs like, oh, this base is important to us, we plug to the military why this base is important to them. What we bring to the defense of the country and to the training of the young airmen and women that serve, because you just can't find a better flying area. And it's great, as I said, when those airmen leave. If we've been good to them here at the base, the community's been good to them. They thank them when they see them at the restaurants and things like that. Those airmen also check off that little box. Would you like to go back to DM? Yes.
The families behind our servicemen and women carry nearly the same value as our veterans, a sentiment shared by many. Supporting them is the mission of the Arizona Coalition for Military Families. For more on that organization, here's Nicola Winkel.
The Arizona Coalition for Military Families, we're a statewide public-private partnership, and essentially what we look at is how do we ensure every service member, veteran, and family member is connected to the right resources at the right time.
What sorts of things are you able to do? I mean, this is outside of deployment.
So we look at the whole military and veteran population, everyone from active duty service members, National Guard, Reserve, to those who are out of the military, retirees, aging veterans, and their family members. And essentially the coalition brings together military, government, and community organizations that serve our military and veteran population. And we work together to strengthen how those services are delivered. And our goal as a community is to be able to meet the needs of this entire population in every corner of our state.
What sorts of things specifically are you helping them with?
So we have a statewide suicide prevention program called Be Connected. And this program focuses on reducing deaths by suicide in our military and veteran community. So it includes a 24/7 support line that anyone can call at 1-866-4AZ-VETS. And that's really designed to make sure that no matter who you are, or if you're helping somebody or you're worried about somebody, there's always a number that you can call to get connected to resources, to get support and guidance in that helping role. We also have an amazing statewide employment initiative called the Arizona Roadmap to Veteran Employment. And this includes innovative pre-match hiring events where service members and veterans and family members can be matched to jobs and interview at the events, an online portal that will translate your military skills, and an array of supportive resources in every county and community statewide.
I imagine that there are some challenges with your type of work, whether it be for resources or funding. What sorts of things would you like to see improve over the next few years?
I think it's really important that our different sectors and systems continue to work together. There's so much need. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people and families. And so it's critically important that we are all working together for the betterment of our military and veteran community, that we're putting them first and focusing on how we can improve delivery of services, access to services across that whole spectrum of need, whether it's housing and homelessness, employment, mental health, physical health, or anything else that they might need.
Even if you don't have someone who serves in the military or has in the past, I mean, there's a way for people to be involved.
Everyone can play a role, whether you have a role in directly serving our military and veteran community, or you're a community member or family member that just wants to be involved. We do offer our military veteran resource navigator training, and that's where we help anyone turn into a helper that is equipped with the knowledge, skills, and confidence to assist a service member, veteran, or family member in need. And we hold those trainings on a regular basis all around the state. We'll be in Safford and Tucson and Yuma coming up in the next couple of months, and we've trained over 3,000 of those navigators statewide. So we encourage anyone who wants to be a part of the solution to get involved, become a navigator, and get informed about the support that's out there.
Now we go back to the 1920s when the Army began a program to connect with the public. It's called Civilian Aid to the Secretary of the Army, more commonly known as CASA, the only military branch with such a program. Civilians nominated by 3 generals who report to the Secretary of the Army and carry a 3-star protocol. Across the country, there are 110 positions. Arizona has 3. Dr. Randy Groth represents Southern Arizona.
We actually advise the Secretary of the Army in terms of Army policy and what they're doing. We also bring that message down to the citizens of the state of Arizona, let them know what's happening. Arizona is kind of interesting because we are the 7th largest state in terms of military enterprise, but our veterans in the state, it's about 10% of our population. So our population is about 7 million, it's about 700,000. And so I give a lot of speeches, and so those veterans around the state want to know what is happening with the Secretary of the Army and what is happening with our soldiers in terms of going off to war and the deployments and things like that. So all the information that I get from the Secretary of the Army, I pass down to the residents of the state of Arizona. In return, the residents voice their opinions, and they tell me what they're feeling in that. And then, of course, I carry that back to the Secretary of the Army. So when I talk with the Secretary of the Army, we have conversations. We see that individual about 4 or 5 times a year. And I was just counting on the way up here, Lorraine, that I think I've lived through about 5 or 6 or 7 secretaries during that time. And they all have different philosophies and all different thought processes, but every one of them is 100% behind our soldiers and their families. And in particular, I get up to Fort Huachuca quite a bit. I've gotten out to Yuma. I've gotten all over the state. We carry a protocol rank of a 3-star general, so it really does open the doors for us to do our job. But over the last couple of years, Arizona's gotten so large with its military enterprise, we've needed to bring on more CASAs. And so we've got over 100 CASAs, one in every state, and then in our districts around the world, the Virgin Islands, Washington, D.C., Samoa, and places like that.
And as I understand it, the idea was to create this liaison relationship between the Army, the civilian community, so that both sides were always heard.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, our Army is supported by the civilian community. I mean, we are a government of the people, and our Army is there to fight the nation's wars. And our Army comes from the citizens of this country, from every small town and every state and every area of the country. These young men and women, they enlist out of high school, they come in, they join the Army, or they go to college, they go become officers or through some kind of a commissioning program in that, but they come from those areas of America, so they are a representative sample of all of America.
What is the Secretary of the Army, how does he revere Fort Huachuca right now? I mean, if you would describe Fort Huachuca's picture for the military, for the Army?
Fort Huachuca is kind of a unique situation in that Fort Huachuca is a huge testing community. When you look at the commands at Fort Huachuca, you have Army Intelligence, and you have NetCom, and you have the testing community there, and then you've got the unmanned aerial systems. So you have 4 major components, and I'm not leaving out some of the smaller ones there, but it's huge there. So with what's going on around the world, before anybody gets to where they're going around the world, there's got to be intelligence. So intelligence is playing a major role. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Intelligence, CIA, NSA, DIA, all of those play a major role. Army intelligence is huge, and it plays a large role there. On the signal side, what happens is they're responsible for keeping that worldwide net, protecting that net. So, you know, when you're getting hacked in the worldwide net, everybody trying to break into our defense systems, NetCom is there to protect that, and that is huge as well. And then NetCom is tied to the Cyber Command, which is in Fort Gordon, Georgia, and on the East Coast. So those are all important things. Then you have the testing community there, which is really kind of interesting because your cell phone and some of the equipment that you have in this room was tested originally at Fort Huachuca in some way, shape, or form. And so the testing community takes there, and then there's an evolution that comes out in the civilian community. The testing in particular has to do with Fort Huachuca and its location. It is in a bowl. And so the bowl is lower in the middle, and it's got the walls around. The mountains, when you look at the Mule Mountains and the Whetstones and the Mustangs, and you look at the Huachuca Mountains, it's a huge bowl. So the electromagnetic spectrum in that area is very, very clean. So if you were looking at a chart or a scope that was measuring noise, there it's very small. Tucson is large. Phoenix is larger. So it's one of the few places in the world that you can do this kind of testing. So because of that, Fort Huachuca is critical. It's critical to the nation.
Finally, on today's program, the Arizona Vets, a program that began in 2009 here at the University of Arizona. There are 2 offices on campus, both designed to support servicemen and women enrolled in college. Many utilize the GI Bill, which began back in 1944. Over the years, it's helped hundreds of thousands of men and women obtain a degree in higher education. Duan Copeland is a graduate assistant with the Vets program.
The success of the Vet Center, it all started with just word of mouth. We typically saw 2 or 3 people stopping by per day, and eventually that grew to 10 per day, and the University of Arizona saw that this was something that the university needed. We needed to take care of our student veterans. So they gave us a space in the Student Union Memorial Center, and we've just been growing like an aquarium and fish. We've just been growing and filling up the space. Now we're seeing about 120 students come through per day. We actually have 2 vet centers. So the one that I mentioned that's in the Student Union Memorial Center, and we also have another vet center that's across Speedway in the Arizona Health Sciences Library. And it's a smaller center, but it's built for servicing our medical students, nursing students, and others who can't make it all the way across Speedway.
So how many men and women who've served in the military are here at the University of Arizona?
So currently, as of fall 2017, we have 1,862 student veterans. And when you look at our entire military-connected population, so that's including active duty, reserve, and military dependents, so children and spouses, we have close to 4,000 students.
What are some of the majors for these veterans here at the U of A?
So the majors are pretty spread out, as you might imagine, because we're coming from 5 different branches and a number of jobs across those branches. You kind of see we have a little bit of everything, but some of the majors are engineering, general studies. We have a lot of psychology majors. As far as the demographics, one interesting fact that I like to share is that U of A has close to 40,000 students. And like I said, our military-connected population is 4,000 students, so that's almost 10% of the population are connected to the military in some way.
What do you attribute that to?
I think over the years we've definitely helped foster that relationship, that this is a military-friendly school, but also I think we're seeing across the country that more veterans are getting out or sending their children to school and using those benefits.
What sorts of things can people expect when they come to your program and they realize there is a network of support for them?
So it's interesting that you asked that. So with the Vet Center, we like to use a holistic approach. As soon as somebody who's military connected or student veteran applies to the university, they get on a list, and then we get that information and we reach out to them and let them know of some of the services that we provide. When they step foot on campus, we link them up with VA healthcare, because if you don't have healthcare, then you can't take care of school, you can't take care of yourself. So we have a very close relationship with the Southern Arizona VA Hospital. We have a retired VA lead psychologist, Dr. Michael Marks, who's full-time in the Vet Center, and he offers psychological services, mental health services daily. We have a nurse practitioner who comes in a few times a semester who also helps enroll people. So in addition to healthcare, we try to link up students with employers. We have direct lines to employers who are looking specifically for student veterans to hire them right away. We have free tutoring services the tutors are student veterans themselves, so it's like student veterans helping student veterans, which is great. It's all built on a community of veterans helping veterans, or military-connected students helping other military-connected students. The success of the Vet Center has been because of all these student veterans that have contributed, and due in part to the university that has helped foster this relationship with student veterans.
Would you say that the Arizona Vets program really gave you a second chance, or is giving some of your colleagues a second chance at school and maybe a different type of lifestyle?
That's a really great question. I think, and I'll speak for myself, and I think this will resonate with a lot of our student veterans, but when many of us come to campus, this is kind of like a it's like another planet. It's something we're not used to. So having something like the Vet Center, it's a stabilizing place, a center that you can go to that's like, you can build camaraderie with people that are like-minded. It really helps. And we've ran some numbers and we found that student veterans that use our center, as opposed to student veterans who don't use the center, the retention rate for those students is about 71%, but students that use our center frequently, the retention rate is 94%. So I think it really helps having a community and fostering camaraderie and connecting student veterans with other student veterans. So, you know, you have somebody to check up on you if you're not showing up for class.
What would you say makes veterans like yourself different from the rest of the student body population here at the U of A?
Well, that's an easy question. I think many student veterans, you know, we have a different world perspective because we've been out into the world and we've experienced things so that some of the student population won't have to. And it's just a different perspective, but as student veterans, we need to be respectful for the whole student body and, you know, understand that we're trying to reintegrate into the community as well.
And before we go, in their own voices, what Veterans Day means to the men and women you heard on today's program.
I've been a veteran now for about 5 years, and I feel very, very honored that there is a day for us.
You have to remember those people, and you have to talk of those people and keep those people in mind even though they're not here, because we wouldn't be here without them.
Veterans Day is an incredible opportunity for our community to come together and celebrate all those who have served, all those who've come before, those who are serving now. It's a great focal point for the year, but for us in the community serving veterans, we like to think that every day is Veterans Day.
What does Veterans Day mean to me? I think it's just a time for the whole country to seriously reflect on veterans and what it means to serve for our country. So I take it as to think about the men and women that have put themselves on the line for, you know, all of us and that are still doing it today.
Honoring all those people that volunteered and served and put on the uniform and knew that you know, there's people out there that were after them and bad things could happen, and they still stepped up and did their thing, and to honor them, and it's a great thing, and you know, it's tremendous that we still have it and we still honor our veterans.
And that's our program. My thanks to all of you for joining us.